What will you do if they let you go home? And the plastic's all melted and so is the chrome. What will you do when the label comes off? And the plastic's all melted and the chrome is too soft. What would you do if the people you knew were the plastic that melted and the chromium too? Who are the brain police? Good morning. My name is Steve Benson, and I'd like to tell you a little story about a long time ago when I was only 13, living in Oxford, Ohio, with my mother who was single and my brother and sister who were younger. I had a very interesting experience the summer of 1966, including buying my first Frank Zappa record, Freak Out, which I sang a little bit of. Anyway, before I delve into the written description and the details, some of them rather gory and disturbing, about addiction and recovery, mental institutions, I'd like to give you a little setting and cast of characters. So, I, being obviously the obvious protagonist of my memoirs, am going to do this kind of first person singular. And it's written as though I were 13 years old, and would like to give you a flavor of that in my writing, which will be coming up here very shortly. But my mother, an English professor, had recently divorced from my father, also an English professor, and she was living with us three kids in Oxford, Ohio, where she taught at Miami of Ohio. Another leading character in the story is my Aunt Ann Benson, who was an English professor also. I guess it runs in the family. And she taught at Western College for Women, also in Oxford. A very eccentric and feminist woman with a penchant for acquiring everything she owned at auctions, which we will get into at greater length later in the memoir. But today, as I drive along these southern Vermont roads, bird watching, as happens to be my hobby these days, now 60 years on, I wanted to start to put some visuals, hi neighbor, into the telling of this story, so you get a sense of the time, the character, how things have moved ahead. Some of you who were around in 1966 would remember the times. And my mother was a free spirit, let's put it that way. Very bohemian, very creative in a literary fashion. Art, she absolutely loved anything Picasso or and that whole type of color, and the freedom of the hills is something she taught me. Or I should say she didn't teach me that, she gave it to me. We were very feral. That Frank Zappa album I mentioned, I bought that with my own paper route money. And aside from buying rock and roll albums with my paper route money, I was very fond of buying chemistry from the local hobby store so that I could make my own fireworks, explosives, model rockets, and other mischief-making devices. The railroad sets that I built from scrap lumber, hauled in and set up in my own bedroom, filled me with countless hours of experimentation, including buying various Godzilla models and Frankensteins and stuff like that, and then transposing my cousin Ann's daughter, Wendy. I got some of her, when she got older, I got some of her Barbie dolls. And what would a 13-year-old male want with Barbie dolls? Well, I used to cut the heads off and put them on Draculas and Godzillas, and I thought those were absolutely hilarious. And then I did the reverse with the Godzilla and the Frankenstein heads, and I would put them on Barbie dolls. And the display in my bedroom was, well, a little disturbed. And anyway, which reminds me of another Frank Zappa song. Believe me when I tell you that this song is really true. I want everyone to listen and believe it's about some little people from a long, long time ago, and all of the things the neighbors didn't know. Early every morning, Daddy Dinky went to work, selling lamps and chairs to San Bernardino squares, and I still remember Mama with her apron and her pad, feeding all the boys at Ed's Cafe, whizzing and pasting and putting through the day, Ronnie helping, Kenny helping burn their poots away, and all the while on a shelf in the shed, Kenny's little creatures on display. So anyway, it goes on, but it gives you an idea of the world I come from, and what you're about to dive into is a remembrance of some very interesting times a long time ago, and well, all of the things the neighbors came to know. So without further ado, I will give you 1966 and all that. A day at the auction, 1966, Oxford, Ohio. Besides running the LBJ for the USA Democratic headquarters in the storefront between Woodruff's Bakery and Corso's Market on High Street, Mom, Hillier, and Aunt Ann loved nothing better than to drag the kids to auctions. One hot summer Saturday, we all converged on a big farm in Liberty, Indiana, about 15 miles northwest of Oxford. The place was packed with people swarming like ants over everything you can imagine that 6 generations of farm family could collect and not bear to throw away. Ann found some rugs, Joe found a bike, Mom eyed some lamps and tables, I found a skateboard with nylon wheels, and my old steel-wheeled ride was totally beat, so I kept my ear tuned carefully to the auctioneer's banter as I roamed around with the Sugg brothers looking for other treasures. Joe, Mark, and Hooley, the Sugg brothers, and I found a man selling blocks of dry ice on a side street. We each bought a 10-cent chunk, which we placed on top of a few paper napkins under our ball caps to keep cool. This also had the added effect of letting off clouds of smoke when we tipped our hats to the girls. Meanwhile, Hillier had bought a cast iron clawfoot tub, perfect decor for the restoration of the Suggs' 1920s abode. Meanwhile, Hillier had bought a cast iron clawfoot tub, perfect decor for the restoration of the Suggs' 1920s abode, the bathroom of which had been remodeled by a previous owner in a misguided Ozzie and Harriet style frenzy in the 50s. The problem was how to get it home. In an Austin Healey Sprite? In a Ford Fairlane? Joe, dutiful son, walked the quarter mile to the nearest payphone and called his dad's office at Western College, where he headed the drama department. Returning, he said, "Dad's on his way after rehearsal." Al drove an Opel Cadet wagon that could handle the tub if we took the feet off first. "Skis, skates, bikes, and trikes, all in good condition, sold as is, where is," hollered the auctioneer. I ran back to the bidders row with my card. "4 wheels and a breadboard. Who will give me 10? Who will give me 5? Who will give me 2? I flashed my card. Going once, going twice. Sold, a bargain. I walked around to pay for and claim the skateboard I would ride for the next few years. Mom and Aunt Angel each bought lamps that they swore were Tiffany. I think it was the heat and beer tent that made them think so. I questioned the pewter menorah my mom bought. Her answer was, "You never know what religion I'm going to convert to next." Prophetic words. As the afternoon shadows started to lengthen, Al Sugg pulled into the parking lot in the Opel. He was a tall, muscular ex-Marine and stepped out of the station wagon wearing only wraparound sunglasses, sandals, and a loincloth, fresh from a dress rehearsal of Prometheus Bound, in which he starred. He was decorated with body paint from head to toe in wild patterns of gray, black, and orange, suggesting the fire-tortured soul he portrayed. The farmers and other rednecks in the beer tent gaped speechless, some dropping their drinks. The incredulous crowd parted as Al made his way to Hillier and the bathtub. Al lifted the tub over his head and strode back to the Opel like Atlas with the world on his shoulders. "Then beneath the earth those hidden blessings for man, bronze, iron, silver, and gold. Who can claim to have discovered them before me? No one. I am sure. Who wants to speak to the purpose? In one short sentence, understand it all. Every art of mankind comes from Prometheus." Al bellowed at the onlookers as he walked, the bathtub acting as a megaphone. The usual cacophony of the auction crowd was as still as the pigeons in a grain silo when a hawk is about. Joe, Mark, and Hooley followed with the claw feet and drain pipe, venting dry ice smoke like altar boys in a bizarre subterranean mass. The problem was getting everything home, including us kids. We negotiated and divided up between the Opel, the Sprite, and Mom's Ford Fairlane. We set off in caravan towards Oxford. Aunt Ann and Hillier in the lead in the Sprite, followed by Prometheus in the Opel, with Joe, Mark in front seat and Hooley alone in the bathtub, crammed in the open back hatch. Mama Joyce, myself, Julie, and Andy followed with the Tiffany lamps across our laps. Out on the highway, we were cruising along when we saw the Opel bounce over a culvert patch not fully filled in. Like a jack-in-the-box, the tub with Hooley in it bounced out onto the road ahead of us, sparks flying. Mom slammed on the brakes and swerved to the shoulder just in time to miss Hooley, whose tub miraculously did not turn over. Al spun a U-turn and screeched back to block off oncoming traffic with his flashers on. Hooley jumped in the car with us, unscathed. Al and Joe put the tub back in the Opel and secured it with baling twine. Prometheus would soon have his liver pecked out by the gods' vultures for delivering fire to mankind. Al was fast coming to the same conclusion about trying to deliver the same message to the Indiana rednecks. And that, my friends, is the beginning. Just to give you some flavor of what transpired during my formative years in Oxford, Ohio. There's a lot more to come.